Okay, so students, we're going to go ahead and get started. What I recommend for you folks to do right now is either get out a Word document on your computer, if that's kind of where your comfort is, but I'm old school. I would love for you to bring out a sheet of paper and a pen or a pencil to kind of really brainstorm, because we all know once we're typing on a computer, things start to feel more official and we feel like we need to have perfection in our writing. So I recommend, if you can right now, grab a sheet of paper. I'll give you a few moments to do that, and grab out a pen, because we're going to be doing a lot of brainstorming tonight to kind of figure out what topics could we potentially write about and how those could potentially apply to different essay topics. So it could give you folks a few moments to get that taken care of, but let's just start with, why does the essay even matter, right? Why do colleges ask students about the college essay? Why is that part of the puzzle? So think about that for yourself. Because if you think about it, right, when we look at the college application process, there's a few components that we look at. We look at GPA. Some will look at test scores, transcript, recommendation, activities, courses, and the other part is the essay. So the essay is geared towards showing you something that these documents aren't going to show you. Because if a school is looking based on your application and your transcript, this only shows one part of who you are. The essay is geared towards saying, you know what? I want to tell you more about myself. I want to share more about my story. There's things I want to explain. There's parts of me that I want to share with you so you can get an idea of what kind of applicant I am and why I'm the perfect fit for your university. So with that in mind, with that mission in mind as to why colleges want you to have the essay, let's dive in a little bit and get warmed up on some potential topics. So let's think about this. So on your sheet of paper or on your Word document, because this is going to be a very important document that you will carry with you. I've done workshops all throughout different high schools, and a lot of students, when they brainstorm with us, they keep this paper with them, because essay topics, even if you're done with your college essay, we know that scholarship essays are coming right around the corner. So if you take this workshop, where you're really brainstorming, can really potentially help you. So let's start with the first question. If someone were writing an essay about you, what would they say? So think about someone you value their opinion. It could be a family member, it could be a coach, it could be a best friend, a significant other, someone you value their opinion about yourself. So think about who that person is. Okay, and I want you to write bullet point. We're not trying to write sentences, we're just brainstorming. So put some bullet points on some qualities that they see in you. Maybe you're helpful, so bullet point that. Maybe they see you as the funny person, or a little more shy. Maybe they see you as someone who watches your siblings or helps your family with your business. What some bullet points of that person do they see in you? So I'll give you about 30 seconds to write a couple bullet points. What would they say about you? What characteristics of your personality, what do you enjoy from their perspective? How do they see you? Because we all know it's hard to think of ourselves in sometimes in a positive light or in what our strengths are. But if we kind of look at through the lens of someone who values you, who knows you the best, what would they say? So at least have maybe 3 bullets right now, either listed on a piece of paper or on your computer screen or your notes section of your phone, whatever is easiest for you. Okay, so now that we got a little warmed up, let's now transition. So when you're looking at scholarship essays or college essays, they typically will ask you 3 types of categories. Either questions that follow on focusing on you as a person, what do you value, what's important to you, your experiences, what you've accomplished, what you've done, the activities you've had, memories you've shared, or your future. So I want you to first start with your sheet of paper, title it you. Okay, so title it you. So now we're going to reflect on who your characteristics as a person. So think about this. So when you're thinking about your characters, okay, am I more introverted? Am I extroverted? Do I like to be around lots of people? Do I love sports? Am I I'm the oldest of my siblings. I'm the youngest. I'm the only child. So think about characteristics and personality traits that you have. So bullet point some of those. Next, I want to think about your background, right? Where were you born? Were you born in the state that you currently reside in? Did you move from different states? Anything with your childhood that you can remember? I remember as a child, right? It was just like some of the more fun times in our lives because, we were so carefree, no responsibilities. Everyone was our friend. We just enjoyed, laughed a lot. Life was good. So think about some of those childhood experiences that you remember, right? Now, maybe you remember going to the beach a lot with friends, or maybe you remember playing in the yard with some neighborhood friends, or maybe you remember loving Legos as a kid and you loved to stay in your room, or maybe you like to cook and help your family. What childhood experiences do you remember? So bullet point some of those. Any childhood memories? Any culture or traditions that you have? Do you have any traditions that you share? Could be like during the holidays. What do you like to do during the holidays? It could be even with family members or friends, or maybe you have your own traditions that are important to you. Maybe you value your heritage and your culture. Maybe you have celebrations that you participate in that focus on your background or your culture. So think about some of those and start to bullet point. And the next part I want you focusing on you is really what are your interests, right? So I know it's sometimes hard. Sometimes it can be easy where to answer this part where you can say, I love soccer. I love being in the outdoors. I love to read. I love to listen to music. So that could be something simple where you're like, naturally, this is what you like to do. But I also challenge you to think, if you have social media, some of you may have social media, who do you follow? Are they risk takers that you love to watch? Their cool challenges they do? Are they people who want to get rich before they're 20? Are these people that you follow food connoisseurs, or do they travel a lot? What kind of interests do you have? What type of YouTubes do you watch? You're like, oh, I love watching YouTube videos on movie stars or beauty tips, or I love to watch YouTube videos on productivity hacks, or places I'd love to travel to. So bullet point some of those interests that you have. And the last part I want you to bullet point is some goals you have for yourself. There's a really cool essay that we had where it was like, if your life was 30 chapters, what would chapter 10 be about? Right? So like think about, okay, what is my goals? Because we all know your life is like a career bucket list, right? Maybe who you want to be in your 20s. Who do you want to be in your 30s, 40s, 50s? What kind of cool things do you want to accomplish in your lifetime? So I'll give you about 30 seconds to brainstorm all on you. And you folks are doing a great job. I can already feel all that you're writing on your piece of paper, or on your phone, or on your computer, wherever you're brainstorming. This is hard to come up with these things, but I appreciate you taking the time to really brainstorm for your essays. Okay. And the next thing I want you to focus on, the next section, are experiences. So now let's reflect on our experiences. Any hobbies you have? Any special talents? Any activities that you're a part of or extracurricular? Any places you've been to? So it doesn't have to be flying on a plane. It can just be, some place you like to go to. It could be like, your room, or it could be like a place that you like to go around your neighborhood to sit and reflect. What kind of places have you been to? Or maybe you like to go to grandma's house, or maybe you like to go to your friend's house. What kind of places do you enjoy going to? And any memories that you can, if you had to like close your eyes for a second and reflect, okay, any memories that come to mind of my childhood or my adolescence or recently? They can be positive memories. They could be some memories that were challenging for you or difficult that you had to overcome. Could be your first grade that you got that wasn't so good on a test, or it could be the time that I worked really hard to help my friend with their homework. What kind of memories can you bullet point? And my other favorite part is like the movies, right? If you could figure out what movie explains your life, or what character do you relate to the most in the movies, or a TV show, or just a famous person, whoever that may be, who do you relate to? Who do you feel shows your personality? Bullet point that person's name or that specific movie. One of my students wrote a really cool essay on how he's a combination of the different Marvel characters. And he said, I'm a little bit like Captain America. I'm a little bit like Black Panther. I'm like Hulk. So he created his own superhero. And that was, he felt his favorite movie was the Marvel series, and how it showcases what he values and his personality. And other things like books, right? It doesn't have to be a book that you recently read, but maybe in elementary school. Maybe it was The Hungry Caterpillar, or Rainbow Fish, or my favorite book of all time when I was a kid was The Little Engine That Could. Because I believed at a young age that if I think I can, I think I can, I think I can do it. So are there any books that you're like, man, those were some great lessons that I learned in elementary school, some good books with some life lessons that I still carry to this day. And any articles that you read. So some of you love to learn more about social justice. Some of you love researching on, investing, or you love to read articles on famous people, or steps on how to fix your car, or troubleshoot certain problems. What kind of articles do you like to learn about? So I'll give you about 30 seconds to kind of go through, add some more in your experiences. And again, you're doing a great job. This is hard stuff to come up with, but I know that, and I'm confident that you will have so many different topics to write about, because we're going to show you how it matches some of these prompts that come up with colleges and scholarship essays. All right, so the next section will be future. So I sometimes run into students that they say, you know what, my personality, I'm like, it's okay. My experiences, meh. I can't really think of too much I can write about, but you know what? Future is what you have control over, right? You can't control the cards that you've been dealt with or the experiences you may have had, but you have a little bit more control of what your future may look like. So I want you to think about, where do you see yourself in the future? If you had to dream of the perfect career, what would that be? And I remember talking to I used to be a high school counselor, and I remember talking to the head of school. I said, you have PhDs, you're head of the school, you've had so many awards. What would have been your perfect career? And she said, Donna, I would have loved to work at a salon. And I said, Oh, wow. Why would you want to work at a salon? And she said, I would love to make people feel beautiful. That would have been my perfect career. And of course, just changed the world in so many ways in education. But, it's one of some of those things that you really figure, okay, this is how I want to make a difference in our world. Another fun question is like, if I gave you a plane ticket today, where would you take that plane ride? Where would you go? Gosh, I would love to go to Japan. I would love to go to Europe. I would love to go to Africa. I would love to go to Disney World. Where would you go and why? So bullet point some places you want to travel to. And then the ultimate question, we're going to combine the last two. How do you want to change the world? And how do you want to make a difference? Right? Because colleges want to know, okay, if I bring you into this school, if you're accepted, how are you going to make a difference in our community and globally, right? We got to dream big. We got to look we got to step away from just like, hey, I only can make a difference in a small way. All of you here today are here when you could be sleeping, you could be working on your homework, but you're here today because college and getting into college and getting scholarships is very important to you. So now with those tools, how do you want to make a difference? Is it particular population you want to serve? Is it people, a certain person you want to help? Is it your family, your community, a career? Is it a problem that you're like, you know what? Our world needs to solve this problem and I want to help with that. What does that look like? So I'll give you a few moments to bullet point your future. Good job, students. Thinking about our future is, whew, that's a lot. It's overwhelming, but I'm confident that you folks have some great things that you want to do in this world. Okay. Now, as you look at this list, right, you got a lot of things that you brainstorm on, you experiences in your future. Start to look at your list and say, okay, you know what? I want you to star 3 on your sheet of paper, star 3 that really is important to you or really shows who you are as a person. I'd like you to star 3 of them. That you're like, I could write pages on this topic or this part about my life or this experience I had. Star 3 of them. Okay. And now that we have our list, think about it as you're looking at your sheet of paper. How are you going to make colleges remember you? Right? Like, man, how am I going to make them remember who I am? How am I going to stand out? And I remember working with this young lady. She was my student applying to all kinds of schools all over the place. And she wrote an essay. If you want to know more about me, ask me not what my favorite color is or what I like to do for fun. Ask me how I eat a potato chip. And she doesn't eat folded potato chips because that means less surface area, which means less flavor. She's categorized them by the average chip per bag, the the sales in different brands. I mean, she just went all out. But what does this tell me about the student? It tells me she's detail oriented. She's very organized, kind of type A, like Monica and her friends, but it showcases a lot about her personality and that she values accomplishments and achieving and goals. She could have said, hey, yeah, so my name's Connie and I'm detail oriented, I'm organized, I'm very goal oriented, I love to achieve. She could have said that, but she said, you know what, let me take it a little further. Just ask me how I eat a potato chip. And this girl got into Ivy League schools. Like, we don't expect you to travel the world and solve world problems because you're 17, right? We want you to have 17-year-old experiences. And so she said, you know what, I'm going to tell you how I eat a potato chip. And she got into Ivy League schools. She was not a philosopher. She didn't travel the world, but she ate potato chips. So I know, students, you don't have to make yourself feel like this Nobel Prize winner. You're like, oh man, it can just be the simple things that you do every single day. So now that we have your list, right? I want you to look at these prompts now with a different lens. So we're looking at the Common App, right? There's over 900 schools on there, from state schools, private schools, international schools, all throughout. They have over, there's so many schools, over hundreds of them are free to apply. So utilizing the Common App, which Pacific is actually on the Common App. Now look at these prompts, right? The Common App asks you a background or identity, interest or talent. We've just brainstormed a bunch on you and your experiences. Any obstacles, right? We talked about memories. So some of you may have put a memory that you had to, an experience you had to overcome, or challenge the belief, right? Remember I told you towards the bottom with the future, I said, is there a problem that you want to solve? Is there some way that you want to make a difference? So that could be a time when you've questioned or challenged a belief. Something someone did that made you thankful, right? Maybe in your memory area, or your favorite place to be, maybe it was with a person. Maybe it was with a family member or a friend or a mentor, or someone you value. A period of personal growth. Whew, we all know we've grown in so many ways, not only with the pandemic, but just like in everyday life, right? There's so many influences, negative energy left and right, some messages that we're just trying to overcome and just get a little step forward towards our goals. So I know that many of you have challenged yourself and grown personally during this short period of time, especially throughout your high school career. Any concept you find engaging. Remember, we talked about interests. I was like, who do you follow on Instagram or YouTube or social media? Because it's a concept you find engaging. And you know what, students, if all else fails, you can pick a topic of your choice. So if on your sheet of paper, you selected something that is not in these categories, you can write an essay on the topic of your choice. And I will tell you this, students, because now you're probably mind blown. You're like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize when I first saw the prompts, right? Because this is me. When I see prompts, I feel like I have to fit a box. I'm like, you know what? Okay, now I got to think about a problem I overcame. And then I feel overwhelmed, then I analyze too much, and then can't figure out what to write. But we work backwards. In this workshop, our goal was for you to not look at the prompts, because we don't want you to fit a mold. We want you to just openly and comfortably write about things that are important to you, that your experiences you've had, and your future. So now when you look at these prompts, you feel a little bit more comfort on what you could potentially write about. And I'll let you in on a little secret. Many scholarship essays follow this little formula. There's a reason why Common App has selected these specific topics. It's because a lot of scholarships moving forward will ask you similar questions. So I want you to keep this sheet of paper, because even if you're done with your Common App, if you just bullet point a little bit more detailed on some of these other prompts, you're going to find many scholarships with that same question. So let's think about this, right? As you're looking at your essay, I always tell students, gosh, if you're sitting on this essay and you read your first two sentences and you're bored, you're like, this doesn't even work. It's not even, I don't fit, it doesn't feel right. If it doesn't feel right, it's not going to be read right. Like, we're going to also feel that energy as administrators and as admissions counselors that, it's really not what you're passionate about. So always think to yourself, gosh, sometimes what sets you apart is a topic, right? Everyone can write about the beach, right? But maybe your spin on how you write at the beach is different. One student, she talked about, because, there's some students who help with their family business, and she said in her essay, or like in her activity section, she's like, I wasn't a part of many activities because I helped my family's food truck. I'm helping my family's business. And she wrote an amazing essay on how she's learned so many skills by managing a food truck with her family. She's like, there was this one time where the cash register was broken. I had to do math on a sheet of paper. So I know math very well. There was a time where a customer came up to my window and didn't like any of the options and wanted to customize. So I had to creatively create a meal for them and use my creative side. So students, you can have similar topics of your peers, or you can write about something, but you got to figure, okay, how can I make this a little bit more than the other student who writes the same topic? And again, we will be happy to support you, to read your essays, to support you on this. And as you're navigating through your essay topics, I want you to kind of take some of these tips and tricks with you to help you brainstorm, or just help you just feel better about this process. So we know that the essay can be the most daunting task of the entire application. It's like, gosh, I know how to write my name, my birthday, but gosh, the time that I've grown, my experiences I've had, it's so hard to write an essay. As adults, we still struggle with that. So I want you to take some of these tips. So first, like we did, we brainstormed, because it's, once you look at the prompt, it's hard to kind of become creative because now you're like trying to figure it out. But just sit for a second and remember the categories that we mentioned in our workshop earlier. You, your experiences, and your future. Focus on those 3 categories as you brainstorm, and maybe new topics will arise. Write freely, right? Because we all know once we're typing, I think, and I can both agree that you do more deleting than typing, because we feel like it has to be perfection and it's supposed to be so great, and we get nowhere. So I highly suggest for you to free write. Go ahead and free write, and just write about a particular topic. Take a walk, right? Because we're all so focused on screens, right? We're always on our phone, we're always on computers, we're always up to date, just kind of a lot's going on. So we recommend taking a walk. Take a walk, even if it's around your house, and really think to yourself, okay, what could I write about? When I close my eyes, what comes to mind, right? When you sit in silence, what comes to mind? Is it a person? Is it an experience? Is your future? What comes to mind? Because obviously it's important to you. Sitting in nature, right? Just like that walk, it's just so healing to you to figure out what, what's important to you. The biggest thing that I recommend you to do during this whole college process, not even just essay process, is to stay in your lane, right? It's so easy to get so influenced by others, right? You're going through this process, you're a senior or junior or whatever it may be, and you hear your peers saying, I got into 10 schools, I applied to 15 schools, I have a full ride this, I got 20 scholarships lined up, I know my major. And all of a sudden you're starting to feel smaller and smaller and smaller of your achievements, about what makes you great. You just don't feel good. And you're like, why even try? Why even try to work on my essay when I know my essay is not going to be as good as hers? I'm not going to get as many scholarships as him. So we recommend from this day forward that you do not get influenced by others' chatter, because I'll tell you, it's chatter. And I promise you, students, if you stay in your lane through this entire college process, you will be able to achieve more than you ever, because then you feel like you're not comparing yourself. You're not looking outward, you're looking inward and what you can accomplish. So take this time as you go through the college process, as you work on your essay, to focus on your greatness and what makes you you and what you want to achieve. I hope that as you look at this list right now and as you reflect, that you have some topics, but we just wanted to get you started on this journey and to really figure out, okay, the college essay isn't that hard, right? It's not that difficult if you just take a step back and just think about what's important to you and what you value. And we, as admissions counselors with Pacific University Oregon, we're here to be with you every step of the way. We're happy to read your essay, to give you feedback, to help you brainstorm. If you're like, hey, here's the topic, like, I don't even know where to start. Can you help me brainstorm topics? We've done it many, many times for our students, regardless of what schools you're applying to, regardless of the scholarship opportunities. We are just want to make sure that you show the best version of yourself in these essays. So I hope this was helpful to all of you today. We want to open up to questions. We would be more than happy to answer any questions that you have about essay writing, the college process. We do have some amazing series coming up. So let us know right now if there's some essay questions that you have that you're like, how do I write an essay, or how do I talk about this particular topic? We're going to open up the floor and we'll be able to answer some questions. So I hope this was helpful today. Any questions? You can feel free to throw it in the chat.
Donna, we did have some questions submitted beforehand, so I can relay a few of those over to you. As students, feel free to put those in the chat. So One question that a student had that they were sharing was that their school was shut down for quite a few years during COVID. So there was not a lot of activities that they could participate in, either at school or out of school. And their grades definitely experienced some of the suffering of learning environments, which is so true. So, what could a student write about? Their question is, what do I write about so you know I'm interested in college, but may not have a lot of experience to show it?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's a question that many students have, right? We went through a pandemic for 2 years or 2+ years. Um, and the thing you have to remember yourself, students, is that as colleges, we went through the pandemic too. We experienced it firsthand, just like you did. So we don't expect you to have like 10 organized activities that you've been a part of. We expect you to have interests, right? So maybe your activities are, I love to draw. I love to listen to music. I'm a babysitter. Maybe some of those activities are just, I like to garden. I love to spend time with my grandma. I love to help at my church. You know, what what interests do you have? Like, remember we were brainstorming, it's just like hobbies. You can list those hobbies on the Common App. There's 10 that you can list, and I promise you, students, from freshman year, I know that you have at least 10 things that are important to you, that you've been a part of, and any hobbies or interests that you have. Great question. I hope that's helpful. First remember that there's so much for you to list outside of the, I have to be in a sport, I have to be in a club, I have to be in a performing arts group. No, it can just be the fact that you love to cook. That's fine too. Okay, so how long do you expect the essay to be? So when you're looking at Common App, the max is 650. And I remind students that max doesn't mean you have to be at 650, right? We all feel like, okay, when there's a goal, I'm gonna shoot for that number. It's the max, right? So has to be at minimum 250, max 650. So I tell students that if you're done talking with the topic and you're like, this is as best as it's going to be, then it's as best as it's going to be. Because we know when you're starting to add more, add this and that. And we highly recommend for you folks, like, because sometimes when you write about a particular person or an activity, we get so wrapped up in the talking about the experience or the person, that at the end is the only time that we're talking about how it applies to us and our future. We challenge you to flip that, right? Talk about the person, the activity, a little bit here, maybe 30% and 70% to be really, why should this matter? How is this going to make me the best college student? And why should I be admitted? So we got some great questions that popped in. So is heartbreak ever a good topic to write about in a college essay? Great question. I think it depends on, how you write it, right? Any topic, any challenge, right? It could be heartbreak. It could be a sad time in your life. It could be a challenging part, but the colleges don't want you to focus necessarily on setting up like how bad it was. We want to see, how did you rise to that occasion? How did you come up and say, you know what, despite this heartbreak, this is what I've done. It taught me these lessons, and these are the things that I've accomplished because I experienced that. So you want the heartbreak to be, or the challenge, whatever that may be, to be, again, that same formula, 30% and 70%. Now what, so what, and why should we care? Yeah, turn it always into a positive. Okay, I don't have a problem generating ideas for the essays, but I do have a problem dialing in on the best one. Great. Okay. Do you have any advice for dialing in on that one topic? Great question. Yeah, I think, when you're looking at the prompt, when you're looking at the topics that you've generated, you generated a lot of ideas. I recommend figure out which one you feel will make you stand out, right? Because, if you're writing an essay about sports, right, we know that many of our students are athletes. There's a lot of students that will apply for different colleges that love athletics, or, but again, it's how you're going to spin it, right? Like I said, the girl talked about potato chips, and that's how she stands out, because not a lot of people talk about how they eat potato chips. So look at some of those questions or some of those topics or bullet points that we created or you created on the side, and figure, okay, which one can I make myself sound different? How can I make myself stand out with a specific topic? How do you make a seemingly average experience stand out? Great question. I know, it's like, gosh, I wish I could talk about potato chips. I mean, so I tell students, right, when you read something, like, let's just even think about us as people when we read things. So when we're reading essays or articles, why do you keep reading? What is about that writing that really intrigues you? Maybe you need to put stats in the beginning. Maybe when people put shocking stats, you're like, whoa. And then you dial in, right? It becomes interesting. Maybe there's a plot. Maybe it's a negative thing that you talk about in the beginning, and then all of a sudden it's positive. It draws you in. How are you going to draw them in, right? Because you said, ask me not what my favorite color is or what I like to do for fun. Ask me how I eat a potato chip. That is a line. The first two lines is how you're going to stand out, because it's going to draw the person in. So don't focus on the first two lines, focus on what topic you want to write about, and then come back, be like, how can I make them love to hear me talk about the fact that I love to draw? How can I make them see that it's different? But don't start with the beginning, because that makes us overwhelmed. Start with the body of your paragraph. So question, another one, what is the best way to manage your time when busy with other extra activities, work, when applying to colleges and scholarship? Any advice on how to do that? Yeah. You know what? My rule of thumb is 10 minutes a day. 10 minutes a day, because when you look at your day, you know that you had 10 minutes, a 10-minute window where you were not doing anything. It could be in the morning while you're getting ready and you're just waiting for school to start. It could be in between classes when your friends are talking about who knows what, and then you have 10 minutes to kind of wind down. It could be in nighttime, maybe at 10:30. That's the time when you're scrolling through social media or looking up YouTube's. 10 minutes a day. If you really position yourself for 10 minutes a day, Monday through Friday or Monday through Sunday, to work on scholarships. Like, let's say you did this Monday for 10 minutes, I'm going to work on my essay. Then on Tuesday for 10 minutes, I'm going to research colleges. And then for 10 minutes on Wednesday, I'm going to look up scholarships. Then on Thursday and Friday, I'm going to email colleges. If you work 10 minutes a day on the colleges or your college process, I promise you it's going to change. We don't expect you to spend the whole day, because we don't have that kind of time. But 10 minutes a day you have. That's my advice. Off topic, but will there be a webinar on scholarships? Yes, we will have a webinar on scholarships, and Maddie and Tanya will be notifying you folks on those other webinars. But yeah, we recommend you joining this. We hope this was helpful for you to kind of brainstorm a little bit more about essays and to talk about what stands out. Oh, thank you, Maddie. So Maddie put in the chat, scholarships on September 28th. Mark that on your calendar to join us again, because we'd love to talk to you about some scholarships and how to look for them and opportunities. And again, let us know if you need help writing those essays. These are great questions. Any other ones? Other questions about the college process or writing essays? And my colleagues, Tanya and Maddie, do you have anything else you want to add to this topic of essay writing? Anything at all?
No, Donna, I think I learned stuff tonight about college essays. It's been amazing. We did have one question just come in. Any tips on being detailed and cohesive?
Yeah, you know what? The setup is key, right? For some students, when it's so interesting, because like, right, you want to take us on a journey with you, like make us love this topic, make us learn who you are, and but sometimes when the details, we take too long to set it up, right? Like, okay, it's the dark and stormy night, this is what's going on this way, and then we get to the end and we're almost done with our essay and we haven't even touched upon how it's impacted us, the satellite view, right? We always talk about satellite view. How from this little experience that I learn, I gain a worldly experience from this small little experience. So I recommend to be detailed but condensed, right? Because you don't want to fall into that trap where you're just setting it up too long. And I'm like, there. Oftentimes when I read essays, it's like the last paragraph, I'm like, there it is. And like, oh shucks, we're done. You just got to the good stuff. So find a way. I recommend writing as detailed as you can and as as in depth as you can first, right? Don't limit yourself, because when you limit yourself, you leave out the good stuff. So just write it all out and then sit with yourself and work with either your English teacher, work with us, and we can help you break it down to 650. Don't limit first, expand. That's why we did brainstorming first. So, it's a good question. Any topics to not write about? Yeah, we get that question a lot. I think the question is more of the no-no on how to present it, right? I think the no-no is not necessarily the topic, because you can write about anything, right? We get a lot of essays that talk about sports, but we've had some essays that wow, I didn't realize that those are the skills you gained, or I did not know that soccer was as complex as it needed to be, or I didn't realize that the beach had so many different metaphors that apply to your life, right? I think the no-no is really focusing on the topic and not on yourself, right? Like I mentioned, students will go, I love my grandpa. He's so great, has all this quality, been there for me. And yeah, this is I take these 2 lessons right at the end. I'm like, oh man, now I want to accept your grandpa. I don't want to accept you. I want to accept your grandpa. Or yeah, I love the beach too, but I didn't know how great you are. So I think the no-no is not necessarily the topic, but how you set it up. And if you feel you're done, if in 3 paragraphs you're done, then be done. Because trust me, there's other essays you're gonna have to write, so you want to save your energy. So yeah. Okay, well, it's been an honor and a privilege being with all of you here tonight. I hope you learned just one little thing. If we can, again, one lesson that you can gain from all of these workshops. It's a night well spent, right? If it gets you one step closer to your next goal, that's what we want to have during this time. And I'm gonna have Tanya talk about the next workshop that we have. But thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Donna, so much. We appreciate you so much in hosting this workshop. I hope that you all can save that document or that piece of paper where you were all taking notes, because I'm sure it'll come in handy truly throughout this whole season. And especially, next week, where we'll be doing a little bit deeper dive into how you can stand out in the application as a whole. So we'll talk a little bit more about the Common App. And then again, I know that some of you are already excited for scholarships, so that'll be on the 28th, like Maddie shared. And I will then again mention to students to look back on this workshop, because essays is a huge part of scholarships. So again, really spending that time and building a really strong essay can not only get you into your dream school, but also earn you tons of money. So thank you all for joining us. We hope to see you next Wednesday at the same time, and it'll be in the same Zoom link. All right. Bye-bye, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you.